Jackie Wyatt will lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Please stand if you are able. And pardon me, but this is a rather long prayer, but I found it very appropriate for today. Loving God, creator of this world, who is the source of our wisdom and understanding, watch over this nation during this time of election. Help us to see how our faith informs our principles and actions. We give thanks for the right to vote. Help us to hold this privilege and responsibility with the care and awareness it merits, realizing that our vote matters and that it is an act of faith. Guide us through this election as a nation, state, and community as we vote for people to do work on our behalf and on behalf of our communities. Help us to vote for people and ballot initiatives that will better our community and our world so it may reflect the values Christ taught us. Help us create communities that will build your kingdom here on earth, communities that will protect the poor, stand up for the vulnerable, advocate for those who are not seen and heard, and listen to everyone's voice. We pray for this nation that is deeply divided. May we come together for the common good and do as you have called us to do, to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with you through creation. Help us act out of love, mercy, and justice, rather than out of arrogance or fear. Lord, continue to guide us as we work for the welfare of this world. We pray for places that are torn by violence, that they may know peace. We pray for communities who are struggling with inequality, unrest, and fear. May we all work toward reconciliation with one another and with God. Help us to listen in love, work together in peace, and collaborate with one another as we seek the betterment of our community and world. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sure. If I can have the student Rotarians join me at the front, please. I've been emailing with the students. It's very difficult for us to get together face-to-face right now in hybrid, but I've asked them to speak a little bit about themselves, introduce, and be sure to include your families, what you're doing in school and outside of school.
Hi, my name is Madison. Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Madison Hunter. I live in Marshalltown and I'm a senior at MHS. I work at Bobcat Academy and I'm planning on graduating in May from the high school and also from MCC with my 2-year associate's degree. And I'm planning on going to UNI in the fall for secondary math teaching. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Stone and I'm a junior at Marshalltown High School. Well, in school I'm involved in band, pep band, various honor bands, All-State, Botany Club, National Honor Society, French National Honor Society, and Silver Cord. In the community I'm involved in groups at my church and youth group, and I'm also a blood donor. After I graduate from high school, I'll go to MCC for 2 years, but after that I'm still undecided. Thank you.
Welcome. We always enjoy our student Rotarians, and we're glad you could make it today. Rick Anderson, if you would come up and introduce your guests, and I don't know if we have any other guests need introduction, and then Linda Havelka, if you want to be ready to be next.
My wife, Bertie, is my guest today.
Okay, Linda is up here because it's time to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries.
Okay, we got quite a list here for November. Jim Lawrence, Ben Daniels, Bob Moore, Conrad DeJardin, Bob Becker, A.B. Chatterton, B. Niblock, Janelle Raymond, Tom McCoy, Jim Hunt, Paul Barr, and Jerry Ellickson.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. We have several wonderful Rotarians to honor of the anniversary of their membership. And so I would like to invite Bob Becker, Carol Hibbs, Rich Naughton, Jeff Rasmussen, Bobby Shomo, Todd Steinkamp, and Royal Young to come up. I hope that some of you had a chance to do this little fun activity to see if you could figure out who our nominees are and or the people that we want to recognize this month. So I am going to start with Jeff Rasmussen. This is Jeff's first year as a Rotarian, and we're really proud that you joined us and hope you'll have, this is the start of many more. Next on the hit parade is Todd Steinkamp. Todd has been a member of Rotary in Marshalltown for 4 years. Congratulations, Todd.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oops. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now we're taking a leap ahead. Carol Hibbs has been a member for 14 years. Congratulations, Carol. Oops, I don't see Bobby Shomo here yet, but he's celebrating his 15th year of membership. Rich Naughton, 29 years, Rich. That's an amazing record. Congratulations. Royal Young, who is also not here, is celebrating year number 58. And not to be undone, Bob Becker's anniversary is for his 61st year as a member of the Rotary Club of Marshalltown, making him the second longest tenured member of our club. So let's give a round of applause to all those folks. Okay, we have a nominating committee report from Jim Goodman.
This is the report of the nominating committee, just so you all kind of have this in mind when we come to vote on it at the annual meeting. I'm going to name all the people. I think we only have to name or vote on the additions, but this vote will be on November 17th at the annual meeting. Tom McCoy as president, Rick Anderson, president-elect, Linda Havelka as president-elect nominee, Kim Jass as secretary, Roger Grodelution as treasurer, Mary Giese as past president, Amanda Akala as director, Todd Steinkamp, director, Aaron McGregor as director, and Chief Mike Tupper as sergeant at arms. That's a 1-year election deal. Okay.
Thank you, Jim, and I would like to thank our nominating committee that includes Jim, Carol Hibbs, Matt Garber, and Dennis Drager, as well as Kim Jas Ramirez. And I want to notify you that if you or someone else you know is interested in one of those positions, we do have procedures in our bylaws for you to submit your name in writing and to add your name to the ballot. So voting will happen at our annual meeting in a couple of weeks, so you want to get right on that. But I am excited about the folks who have already said yes and think we'll be in great hands with good leadership no matter what happens. Okay, and Rena Helgerson has an announcement.
Okay, this is more of a request. I know that you guys are pretty active in the community, and I'm working with the Main Street Committee on planning the Festival of Trees this year. And we are still in need of participants for donating trees, either donating and then they'll be auctioned off. All the proceeds go back to planning the next year's holiday stroll. Or you can show off your Christmas tree decorating skills if you're really talented in that aspect. And it's only a $25 entry fee. But that is November 21st. If you guys want to sign up, I know that's coming close, and we're struggling to find participants just because of the pandemic and the economic situation that we're in. So if you guys know of any groups that are interested, please let me know. I'm definitely all ears. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrina. Wanted to let you know that at last week's meeting, we had a total of 46 people in attendance, 28 in person and 18 on Zoom. Also, we've mentioned before that we have a group working on plans for a holiday party, and please be on the lookout for a Google survey that should be coming to you shortly. They're very interested in knowing about the members' interest in actually attending a holiday party or not. So be sure to make your thoughts and wishes known on that. A reminder that you want to make sure that you sign the pink slips on your table to let us know that you are in attendance, so that we can recognize all of you with perfect attendance at the next recognition time. And on Zoom, just make sure that we have your name, we can see your name on the list of attendees. Reminder, Rotary Makeup is at Wayward Social on Fridays, starting at 4:30 to 5:30. And if you attend, let Kim know about that so she can keep it in our records. Tom's going to introduce Andy Cole.
Andy Cole is an officer in the Marshtown Police Department, and wanted to come by and just give us an update on what he's doing and the other officers are doing with Shop of the Cop. Chief Tupper, since you're here today, I gave Andy 3 minutes. Could you set a timer, please? Well, you're the Sergeant of Arms. You're the Sergeant of Arms, so come on up.
Thank you, Tom. Again, my name is Andrew Cole. Been with the police department here for 12 years. This year's Shop of the Cop. Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha. This year's Shop of the Cop is taking on a little bit of a different aspect for us because of the pandemic. We're not going to be able to probably pull the kids into Walmart with us to shop. So the theory this year is that we're going to get those families, we're going to designate a certain amount of money, and then as a shift, we're going to try to get the guys to go as a kind of a team building activity and give them several shopping lists per se to go out and go get those gifts, get those wrapped up together, and then we're going to give a special shout out to Santa to have him come in, and then we'll try and get an escort running around town so that these kids can actually have gifts again this year. So I just wanted to say thank you for last year's donation. It went a long way to helping the 100 kids that we were able to help, and we're going to try to shift gears a little bit and keep moving along. But again, appreciate all your guys' help and just want to give you a little update. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for happy news. I'm going to kick this off. I am really happy with the weather today, and I imagine a lot of people in the room are also. Do we have other happy news you'd like to share?
President Giese, I've got some happy news.
Somebody.
The coats have arrived. Chief Tupper called yesterday, so they are at the police fire station. We are planning on sorting and delivering the coats on Friday. So all able bodies, we probably don't need a lot of people, but 5 to 6 people to help sort and get the coats ready to be delivered. 9 a.m. on Friday. Wear a mask. See you there.
Thank you, John. That is good news. And it's especially good news because they didn't need it this week. So. Okay, Todd, we are ready for the news.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's election day. At least for those who did not cast their ballot early. Over the past 4 weeks, about 1 million Iowans have voted early. The latest report shows more than 90% of eligible Iowans are registered to vote. County auditors were allowed by law to start tabulating absentee ballots yesterday, but the first results in Iowa won't be released until after the polls close after 9 p.m. Iowa Secretary of State Paul Page says one of his main concerns on this election day is misinformation or disinformation online. Page says, I encourage Iowans to not believe everything they read on social media. Sometimes people are just giving out bad information. Others are trying to confuse voters and create doubt in our elections. Page says the best source of credible information and about where to vote is your county auditor or their office. The Marshall County Treasurer's Office is closed to the public all this week per an email from Treasurer Jared Heil. You can still email the offices or call. Property tax payments or motor vehicle transactions can be dropped off in the Marshall County drop box in the north entrance of the downtown Great Western Bank, or by mail or online at iowatreasurers.org. October's weather ended up being one of the coldest on record per state climatologist Justin Gleason. Any October that produces half a foot of snow in parts of the state really isn't normal. As far as November, he says some are predicting a snowmageddon, but he sees a more gradual approach to the winter from Mother Nature. Let's hope he's the one who's right. A new survey of Midwest business managers shows another month of economic growth. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss says we're seeing the economy continuing to expand. The negative results are getting less negative. He says the October Mid-American Business Conditions Index, which ranges between 0 and 100, increased to 70.2 from September's 65.1. That's the highest level in 16 years. Goss also says the Midwest business leaders taking part in the October survey say they do continue to have trouble finding skilled workers. An actor from the movie Field of Dreams is buying a historic building in the northeast Iowa town where the 1989 film was shot. Dwyer Brown, who played the father of Kevin Costner's character, is purchasing the former dairy in Dyersville. Brown wants to give back to the town by rescuing the dairy farm, which was built in the late 1800s. Finally, a father was tucking his daughter into bed one night and was about to read her a fairy tale. Daddy, the little girl asked her father, do all fairy tales begin with the phrase once upon a time? No, sweetheart, he answered. Some fairy tales begin with, if I'm elected.
Thank you, Todd. Also under announcements, I neglected to mention that our own Dennis Draker has agreed to submit his name as an applicant to be the District 6000 governor. And I think it begins in 2023. So the board yesterday voted to enthusiastically endorse his application, and so our club is forwarding that to the district, and I'm excited to think about his leadership benefiting so many other Rotarians as well. Okay, Tom, would you introduce our program?
So I called Joe yesterday because our speaker was unable to make it today because of illness, and I asked Joe to send me his resume. My printer broke, it was so long. So I'm not going to introduce him. He doesn't need an introduction. So Joel's going to give us a kind of an update on Marshalltown, what's going on, and I gave him really full liberty to do whatever he wants. So I hope that doesn't include dancing. Come on up, Joel.
I assure you, I will not dance. I dance about as well as I golf, and I've only golfed once in the last 5 years for good reason. I'm reminded of being out in Washington, D.C. trying to raise money for cancer research, and Arlen Specter was the speaker, and I'm going to cheat and read what he said. He said this: I always conspicuously take my wristwatch off and put it on the podium to give the audience the false sense of security that my speech will be short. I always thought that was kind of cute. He was a good speaker that day too. The list I brought with me, I keep kind of as a running list for when I might get interviewed, and I started keeping track at about the 20th interview after becoming mayor. And this, I'm up to 188, so the next interview will be 189. But I've always got the brag list on things that are going on in Marshalltown to talk about, so I'm never short of things to say. You know, the year I was president of this club, I never got nervous. I kind of enjoyed public speaking. The joke is I've never been a mic I didn't like. But there was one time I got really nervous. I was in charge of the speaker that month, and I lined up the Iowa Insurance Commissioner, and he did not get here until about 12:35. And I was really starting to sweat. You know, I've got a bunch of lawyer jokes I can tell, a bunch of pilot jokes I can tell, but I was going to be dancing and bobbing and weaving that time. I really kind of prefer to have this be more question and answer, because that's more what I'm used to being interviewed than being a talking head. I thought the slideshow last week was excellent, Aaron, and I know you don't like being a public speaker. You did such a nice job. I kind of hate following that act. Bethany's dad was here today and assured me she doesn't have COVID, but she is under the weather, so I'm happy to sub for her. What you may not know is, as the longest serving city councilor, she often has to sub for me. My daytime job takes me out of town a lot, and she's had to step in a lot, so I was happy to tell Tom, sure, I'd be happy to fill in for her. Let me just start with some of the things that are fun to brag about. I was reminded by Jessica, I don't see Jessica here today either. She also subs for me a lot, and God bless her, she is great. We have to do everything we can to keep her around here. I cannot imagine being stuck as the mayor without having somebody with her talent and organizational skills and people skills. We don't always agree on things. I did finally just recently ask her what party she's in. Didn't know that until I asked. But she's been great. She reminded me when I was bragging about the library that is such old news that we got the top award in the whole country, that she wasn't even here as the city administrator, and she's been here for 5 years. So I guess that is kind of old news, but it is a neat library, and we did get the top award, the only one getting the top award years ago. It's a LEED certified building. It's very efficient. I like the way the mound on the south side of it looks now compared to when it was first built. Boy, they do so much programming there, it's not funny. So that's one of my favorite things to brag about. When politicians are in town and want a quick tour, make sure that one's on the list. Iowa River Hospice, this is also kind of old news. They got in the top 2 best places to work for employers in Iowa that have up to 100 employees. And having been on that board with Jim Morantz and Karen Gregory and some other fine folks, I can tell you they're like a family there. Those workers just love each other and work very well together. It's one of those places. I like to joke that I'm trying to avoid when I have to go to the hospice or when I have to go to the nursing home, but we've sure got a really good hospice deal going here, and it's fun to brag about that. Several of you have contacted me, emailed, written and called, and a few of you actually came in and had a conversation with me in the office to get my assurance that we are not going to put a road right next to the Iowa River Hospice. You have my assurance. I don't have a vote, but on this topic, I know well enough how people are going to vote on that one. So don't worry. If there's going to be a road, it will be, I think, 3rd, 7th, I forget. It was going to be 5th Avenue if it had gone right by the hospice, and so I think it's going to be 3rd Avenue would be the one to be an extension, and that's going to cost us about $80,000 or $90,000 more. I have found myself at these city council meetings amazed that at about every meeting we do a consent agenda and we spend about $1.5 million or $2 million. That's a lot of money, but what that gives me is the perspective that sometimes you just have to pay a little more and do it right. I'm kind of proud. Leon Lamer and I were both tricked by my wife. She told me that he would run if I would, and she told him the opposite, so we both put our names in. And at one of the first city council meetings, they were redoing Olive. And as they were about to start redoing Olive, he and I both asked, how come we don't have a bike lane or safety lane there? And people looked around the room, well, it would cost more money and it might take an extra year. And Leanne and I both said, so what? Let's do it right. Let's make it safe for people that are walking or have strollers or whatever. So I'm kind of proud every time I drive out here to Rotary to see it. And I really love it when there's actually somebody on it, which doesn't happen all that often. But that was an example of where, hey, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. On the roadway past hospice, it's too nice, too serene a place to have traffic too close to it. So I can assure you that is not going to happen. The Y is one of the other favorite things I get to talk about. I'm still convinced it's the nicest place and the nicest Y in the Midwest. And it has to be the nicest Y in the state of Iowa. I was the incoming president-elect of the Y, and I had been in touch with my little brother, who's a lawyer up in Spencer. He was the president of Kiwanis up there, and they had just had a fundraiser that raised $3,000. So I was getting the name and number of the people, the company to call to get these ducks, so we could have a duck race in the creek and try to raise $2,000 or $3,000 because the Y just really needed the money badly. And it was about that week that we got the call from a lawyer out in Arizona saying, you just got a gift of about, I think it was $18 million, something in that range. And we didn't believe it, so we had to call back and vet him first and then find out, oh yeah, really, Virginia and Henry had worked here. And John Norris Sr. used to bug her annually to give money to the Y, and she just put him off and put him off and put him off. She knew she had done that in the will, and she didn't tell him. So it was quite a surprise to John when that gift came in too. But through Carol and her staff, and Mary Carol Fish before her, the Y was able to parlay that gift, the annuity stream, into building the new Y. And Carol, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we're coming up on burning that first mortgage in another year or two, I think, isn't it? The mortgage, the financing.
In about 10.
Oh, in about 10 years? Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that screws up another topic later on the list here about tennis courts.
We opened in January of 2004.
2004, okay. All right, yeah. Well, Mike Miller and Mike Mason and Matt Scriber and I were always part of a 3-person, I forgot who aged off or aged on a committee, the new building committee. So if you don't like something at the Y, we were the guys that picked the colors and things like that. And I got outvoted twice. Once was, I didn't like the figure-8 track. I didn't think that would work. And our architect was a smoker, he didn't know. And so there's a figure-8 track, and Sharon and I ran on it once, and we'll never run on it again. But phase 2 has the track going all around the perimeter. And then I'm hoping in phase 2, we can have some indoor courts so that now that we've got these beautiful outdoor tennis courts, we can hold the state tournaments here like we do with the girls swimming is happening this weekend, as I understand it. And so that Y is pretty cool. The other thing I couldn't convince the other 2 guys to go with was, I like the old portico or the drive-through at the old Y, so you could drop a kid off and not get him rained on. And I tried to convince them we should have something similar at the new Y building, and that was going to cost too much, so that was off the list. Otherwise, we got along pretty well, and that building is phenomenal. But it's not just the building; it's the programming, the people, and what an attraction it is. If you're an employer and you're trying to hire somebody to come and work here, and especially if you want them to live here, the tour of the Y just about ought to do it. I mean, it's just a phenomenal place. I got an email the other day. By the way, I've written a book. I haven't reread it yet. I haven't proofread it. I haven't let anybody see it. It's about the strange or funny things that have happened to me as a lawyer for 41 years. And on some of these things, I have to wait until the old clients are dead because they'll be able to recognize themselves. But the next book, and I've started to work on it, is the stupid questions you get asked if you're the mayor. And one of them recently, well, I'll tell you two recent stories. These are both within the last 3 weeks. One is a guy calling me from Arkansas asking me about a cemetery that turns out to be in Grundy County and why he thought the Marshalltown mayor would be the one to give him information about the Grundy County Cemetery. I don't know. But then about 10 minutes into the conversation, I figured out what he really wanted to know was who could he talk to do the stone cutting, because he had an old relative buried there, but they didn't have a stone. And so I was able to look up the number and give it to him, but I thought that was kind of stupid. But the stupidest one was I got a voicemail message. If people call for the mayor at the mayor's office, I'm never there, but they can leave a message, and if they leave a message, the phone automatically emails it to me so that I can hear the voicemail message. And it was a mail saying that something was really seriously wrong at Culver's. They had to close it, and there must have been a threat or something. Could I look into it? Well, I got that message on a Sunday night, I think it was. So I actually did email the corporate office. I couldn't find a local number to call, and I asked if it was there, a bomb threat or something at Culver's. And the next day, because I like Culver's and drive through there at least weekly, had lunch, drove through it, had lunch there, and noticed that there were people inside. So I finally did call the number back. This time I got the wife, and she was the one that put her husband up to making the call. And the conversation started something like this. I know my rights, and you can't tell me that I can't eat in Culver's, and that if I do, I have to wear a mask. Isn't that right? I was like, well, ma'am, I just ate lunch there, or picked up lunch there, and I can tell you, you can go into Culver's now. But on the mask, I think you probably ought to be wearing one. Where do I vote? Where do I pay my traffic ticket? Those are all things that people actually will look at my number and call and ask about that stuff. Nan, I just give you your number. True story. The very first call I got after I got elected to the city council as a write-in candidate against Cinderella mayor, which is just a wild story in of itself. And if her husband runs for mayor or for city council, I'm going to tell the full story about Cinderella. I just lost that train of thought. You know, I took a law class on civil procedure first year, and the professor said there are really 5 things that you need to work on and have to be a good lawyer. You have to develop a good memory, and there were 4 others. It was the first call I got. She had to be 90 years old. You could just tell from the voice and her grammar. And she's calling to complain because her neighbors had broken some glass partly on her driveway. And I'm trying to think, oh, okay, well, when you're calling me on the city council, why? But I had the wherewithal to ask her address. And she identified herself in the very northeast side of town. So I told her, well, Bob Schubert was actually your counselor, so here's his number, call Bob. True story. Pat Brooks and I used to do something kind of nasty to each other. He was a lawyer in town and was a city attorney. And if he had a client or potential client show up who smelled really bad and had a stupid question to ask and no good lawsuit, he would send him or her over to me, to the office. And so I started to return the favor. And we did that for years until we moved to Ames. I was like Mary. She was the cross country coach. Pat and I didn't always get along. I think I was asked to give a talk right after becoming mayor, and I did have a PowerPoint for that. I'm kind of inept with those things, and I like to joke about my dad, who was a trial lawyer. He was actually president of the International Society of Barristers, believe it or not, coming from a town of 10,000 people up in Spencer, Iowa. Anyway, he had a PowerPoint that was really pretty damn good, and I went like that. That was the extent of his ability to handle things. Anyway, sorry about that, but when I did come and visited about what it's like to be the mayor, I was telling about going around to the major employers, because I thought it would be smart to get a tour, meet those people, make sure they have my email address and cell phone number, so if they had any questions or concerns, they could contact me. And the most fascinating tours were of the Veterans Home. I wish that Timon were a member here. He's just a phenomenal person. He knows the name of every single resident and their branch of service and their hometown, and he knows the name of every single employee there. And I learned that in a 2.5-hour tour with Beto O'Rourke from Texas, because he did it. We're in the lunchroom, and one lady came up and she was mad as hops at him because he had not sung happy birthday to her the day before on her birthday. And apparently that was something you get people to sing happy birthday. And so Beto O'Rourke and I joined in with a happy birthday song for her, and she was happy. But the other one that was fascinating was Mechdyne. You know, you can drive by Mechdyne and not know it's there. It's really nondescript, but you go inside, and I'm getting the tour, and I'm looking at a huge TV screen that is being sold for $22 million to some university in Australia. It was just fascinating. It's one of those really interesting places to work. And I wish we could get in there to get somebody from Mechdyne to be in Rotary. Wish we could get somebody from Mechdyne to be on the city council, to be honest. The Marshtown Community School District is a fun one to talk about too. I was telling Claren at the tennis ribbon cutting thing that what sold me on moving here, we had a good practice up at Spencer, and my little brother was moving back. He was a lawyer, my dad's a lawyer. I really didn't want to leave Spencer, but Sharon kind of gave me a tour of the town, and it was the auditorium that is a joint project between the community and the school district. That auditorium is just so cool. It's got that stage that rises and goes down and accommodates a lot of people. I just thought that was really, really neat. And then we lived here a number of years and watched the kids in sports before I figured out that we have the largest gym in Iowa. And after sinking millions of dollars into it, thanks to Rotary, the Marthon Thai Foundation, a lot of you people here who are donors, it's also the prettiest and nicest place to watch sports and practice. The tennis courts are neat. I've driven by a few times, but you have to go up there to really see what's going on. And our daughter Erin played tennis, so we went around to most of the tennis venues in central Iowa. And I would always be embarrassed coming back to Marshalltown. Not embarrassed anymore. It is really sweet. It's got nice parking. It's got a nice restroom facility. The courts are neat. And for you pickleball fans, those pickleball courts are pretty neat too. So there are 2 to play on right now. I guess the other courts could be reconfigured or retaped so that they have more pickleball. And by the way, that little space behind City Hall, kind of behind where the Park and Rec building that was damaged in the derecho, that is going to be a pickleball court. So it's going to be fun for people that are using the Coliseum to be able to go over there and play pickleball. I still haven't done that. I need to give that a try. In talking with Theron at the school, we were talking about how maybe the next big thing that we could do here, we've got a really nice baseball field that used to host the state meets too. Soccer is a big sport in town, and it would be nice to have a dedicated soccer field. So I can just predict someday the Thai Foundation will be doing a challenge grant trying to get people to come up with a dedicated soccer field. One of the neatest things, 2 of the neatest things that I think have ever happened to Marshtown are changing the tennis courts that were kind of dilapidated over on 13th Street into the the futsal courts and watching how many kids are there on a Saturday now. And then the other thing was the have and have not middle schools. Our kids went to Miller, so Sharon and I were mock trial coaches and that sort of thing. But the kids that went to Hanson didn't have mock trial, they didn't have sports. It was a have not. And overnight, the school board said, okay, Larry, you might have been on the school board when that happened. I know you chaired it for years. Overnight, they changed it. Everybody in 6th grade goes to this school, everybody in 7th grade goes to that school. That was one of the best anti-discrimination things I've ever seen the city do in the cafeterias, and it was pretty neat. The medical field. Tracy Greenfield staff called last week or a week and a half ago and asked if I would meet with her and where should she have a photo op. And the answer was, well, let's go to the surgical center now and I'll show her where the dirt is being dug to put in a $24.6 million facility. And then we can tell her about the $16 million McFarland facility that's going to go up. So we went from 5 years ago looking at bankruptcy in our hospital here to having a real commitment by Unity Point and by the McFarland Clinic to recruit more doctors and step up our game here. We've lost too many people. We went from 20 family physicians down to 4, I think, at one time. And one of those is from India. It'll take her 10 years to be allowed to continue to stay here, which makes no sense. There are 2 countries where that applies, India and I forget the other one. And most other foreign doctors, it takes maybe 3 to 4 years to establish themselves and be allowed to stay here. So I did line up a tour of a bunch of doctors from India practicing in Iowa. Went out to meet with Senator Grassley and his staff to see if they could work on changing that. The recreational trails, those have been fun to talk about. Right, I didn't see Larry. Larry Raymond isn't here today. I don't see him on the Zoom either. He was talking about the park he's got going. So I drove up there at a non-busy day last week and drove up to see what that's going to look like. Man, it's going to be neat. I mean, it really is going to be a very nice park up there. He's got this huge piece of equipment that can shoot a gun, I think, from here to Nebraska. I mean, it's huge. It's even bigger than the Larry Raymond cannon out by his house that went through the Mike Miller roof, I think. It hit the house, I know. Anyway, it's huge, and it's going to be encased in this all glass, really high ceiling place. And there'll be nice bathrooms, also high ceilings. And he's just going to let people use it from sunrise to sunset, I think. So he's been emailing me lately about what signs to put up there to welcome people, but to tell them, keep your dog on a leash, that kind of thing. So if you guys find yourself not on a busy day, on a short drive, it's only 6 miles up there, you'll see what that trailhead is going to be like. And the thought right now is there isn't enough money to do the very expensive bridge between Marshalltown and Albion. So the next paving is probably going to happen starting in Albion and going to the north to try to get those other towns a little more excited and connected to having this 34-mile trail, which is really going to be cool. And my goal is to be able to ride it on 2 wheels instead of 4. So I hope we can keep the fundraising going. I've got a whole list of other things. I'm still on the first page, and by my watch, we've only got 5 minutes to go. You know, people have to vote, so let's go to the questions. Right. Yeah, for those who can't hear, Tom asked, how do we amplify the fact that we've got so many basic things going here? And the answer to that is Vision Marshalltown is working on that. Actually, we have a staff person. We've engaged Amperage, I think was the name of the company, to help do the marketing things. and get that word out. The three goals, well, there are four now, of Vision Marchtown are to make sure we have the best schools around, anywhere around, and we're doing well on that. To increase our housing stock. I'm disappointed I didn't get to that because there are so many exciting things, some of which I can't talk about yet. Well, I can talk about some, like Congressman Blum, his son is building duplexes in town. Roxanne Conlon's son was, Jim Conlon was very interested in building. We have some other developers putting in nice housing, like the $250,000 type nice housing. So we have those things going. And then to encourage growth too is another thing. So Vision Marchtown really is working on that. And with the Central Business District, Jessica's on that. There's going to be a good push to get that word out. It's amazing, especially for being hit with the tornado and the derecho and a virus. We're still doing some amazing things like the Coliseum, thanks to Vic and Al Hoop for chairing that. That's going to be so exciting to move in. Our airport, we're getting a new hangar and a new terminal. Steve Ulrich just does a hang-up job out there on not a big budget. But we're able to do that even while we're recovering from these two weather events. So we've got a lot to toot our horn about, and we just need to make a concerted effort to do that. Okay, T-2 in county. Larry.
I just want to thank you for hospice. Relationships and stuff have been there, and times that we were on for our folks and stuff. It's a fantastic facility. Sometimes we'll have to do it. So thank you for what you've done. When I go home and tell my wife today, she'll be so happy.
Sure. Thanks, Larry. Larry was thanking us for the work on the hospice. You know, Rex Wright and John Bildy, Merrill Sports, Sharon Greer, and I all have been president of that facility. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful thing. It really has. And they do so much good out there. And there won't be a street. There just won't be. All right. Well, you've got a minute left. Let's go vote.
Thank you very much. It was uplifting to think about all of those things and the fact that there's still a list that we didn't even have a chance to think about. So thank you again. Also a reminder that we have a practice of contributing to the polio eradication effort in place of remunerating our speakers. So Joel, we thank you for your contribution to that. Next week, our speakers will be Dr. A.B. Chatterton and his son Austin. So be sure to attend that meeting if you can. Please rise and join me in reciting the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? We are adjourned.